is the Greek god Papadon, and you're listening to the ECWF Wrestling Podcast.
Get the F out.
All right, welcome to episode number 34 of the ECWF Podcast. We will not get the F out, we put the F back in. I'm your host, Sean Bicking, and on this episode, I was joined by the Greek god Papadon. We talk Greek heritage, the NYWC, some WWE work he has done. He has done some TNA work and every other major company out there, every indie out there he's worked with, all the big names that he's worked with, him being in the movie The Wrestler, him being an artist outside of the ring and drawing for comic books. We talk about Star Wars, just a whole bunch of other stuff. So you guys are going to sit back and enjoy this one. I know I did. Without further ado, here is Papadon. Back in the podcast here with the Greek god Papadon. And to start things off, how important is the Greek heritage to you?
Oh, man. Very important. I mean, if you have any friends that are Greek or you know any Greek people, you would know that Greek individuals are very proud to be Greek.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost sacrilegious not to be. I mean, you're just like the Puerto Ricans. There's a lot of pride in our nationality, our culture, and our ethnicity. Because as a culture, we've basically given so many gifts to civilization and invented so many things. Basically, we're the forefathers of civilization. I say it all the time in my promos and stuff. As when I'm doing my shtick, quote unquote. But there's some truth to it because let's face it, the Greeks invented wrestling. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for the Greeks, you wouldn't be on a podcast talking to me right now. And I would be wearing spandex and kick pads and kicking the crap out of everybody in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they basically invented everything.
Yeah.
Anything from democracy to mathematics, astrology, philosophy, advances in medicine. The majority of words in the English language come from Greek words.
Yeah.
I can go on and on, but I don't want to bore people with that.
Right. Okay, talk a little bit about Greek food, because I know that's a big thing in the culture too.
Oh, absolutely, man. And if anyone from the Mediterranean area, whether you're Italian or whether you're Greek, eating is a must. Because delicious food, a lot of fish, a lot of olives and vegetables and olive oil, feta cheese, healthy meals. How many fat people do you see in Italy and Greece? Hardly any, right?
Yeah.
Not in this. Unlike this country, whose food is all processed and full of chemicals and GMO, and people in the United States used to go from eating food to now eating food-like products.
Right.
And they're wondering why they're full of diseases and why people are obese. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame. It's a matter of basically an individual doing some research and finding out what they're putting in their mouth and what they're ingesting food-wise, and realize whether or not it's good for you.
Yeah.
You can sit there and eat chocolate till you're blue in the face, but sooner or later, you're going to get sick.
Yeah, get diabetes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But food is definitely a big culture. I mean, look, there's certain aspects in the Greek culture. Number one is religion.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm sorry. Number one is family. That's the main thing.
Okay.
Number two is religion, food, music, heritage. Those are main aspects of the Greek culture. And if you know anything is Greek, they won't disagree with me when I say that.
Absolutely.
Because, it's the truth. I mean, family comes first, and how do you bring family together? You cook. And then what you do, you say your prayers before you eat.
Yep.
And then you eat.
Right.
And then you talk.
Yeah. So, with you being on the road and everything, and being a professional wrestler, you have a strict diet already. Do you get to eat like a lot of like Greek stuff on the road or anything like that?
Yes and no. I I mean, it depends what you define as Greek stuff. It's not like I'm shoving gyros in my mouth all
No,
the time.
no,
You know what I mean?
but I mean, you mentioned like fish and stuff. I know that's a big like.
Well, yeah. I mean, look. Can I tell you, having the diet of a professional wrestler, does it suck? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, unless you were a wrestler in the 60s and 70s and all you can do was eat steak and drink beer and have fun, after the matches, and, you didn't need abs, then, back then it's a different story. But nowadays, if you want to make some real money, you got to have abs. You got to have that bodybuilder physique. Because let's face it, when you make it to the WWE, you got to please one person. That's Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to play up to his likes, not his dislikes. You can't come in the company with a big belly and not looking like you don't ever step foot in the gym.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So nowadays it is a lot harder because you're on the road. It's hard to find healthy food on the road. I mean, a smart individual will pack some protein powder with him or her, maybe some meals, and it is difficult. I'm not going to lie. Do I eat clean 100% of the time? No one does, But I try to eat as clean as possible, chicken and fish, and very limited on carbs, heavy on vegetables and stuff like that. Very limited red meat, maybe twice a week, if that, Try to keep it to a minimum, because they say red meat's not good for you, so whatever. But if I do eat red meat, it's lean red meat, like a London broil or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
But anyhow.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're going on about, I think, 17 years now as a pro, right?
Correct.
And
actually, July 17th is my 17th year anniversary.
Nice. Wow. So, in all those years, though, like you mentioned back in the day, like the diet wasn't as important, but I mean, have you switched your diet over the years, or has it been kind of the same ever since?
No. When I first started, I was a fat fuck. I'm sorry. I don't curse.
No, you can curse. You can curse as much as you want. It's fine.
I was fat. Like I said, coming from a Greek background.
Yeah.
You eat like a horse when family cooks. You cook for an army. So portion control is a big issue with me. But after a while, I changed the way I ate. Obviously, when I first started out, I was in a singlet, and now I'm not. Now I'm in trunks. And, I mean, to say that I feel that my body's at its best right now, it'd be a lie because I look at guys like Tony Nese and I just want to kill myself because Tony Nese can eat whatever he wants. He's a good buddy of mine.
Right.
He doesn't gain a pound. Meanwhile, I look at a cookie and I gain 10 pounds. But, if I wish I had abs like him, but, you don't need abs to kick ass in the ring. So you just need to look like an athlete. And at least I look like an athlete and I look like a wrestler. And I'm in the gym every day working out. So, could I wish I could drop a little bit of weight? Absolutely. But you always wish what you don't have. So,
it is
what it is.
Yeah.
I feel and I've been told by many that I have a very marketable look and I look like a wrestler and I look like a fighter. I get stopped all the time in the gym when I'm out, out and about. Hey, do you fight? Are you a MMA guy? Or are you a cage guy? You look like a cage guy. And I tell them, no, I'm a pro wrestler. Oh, that's cool, man. Cool. Whatever. But, you got to look the part. You can't be some guy who's either 100 pounds soaking wet or 400 pounds, looking like a tub of lard and expect to be called, taken seriously when you tell people you're a pro wrestler.
Right. Okay, so in public or even out at the gym or anything, like how often do you get that people assume you're Puerto Rican?
Oh, dude, all the time.
Yeah.
I get told, when people ask me my nationality and I tell them that I'm Greek, they say, oh, I thought you were Hispanic or I thought you were Italian.
Yeah.
I get it all the time. I don't look Greek, but that's because of my olive complexion.
Yeah.
Because my mother, she came from the Greek islands, so she has dark skin. So you can blame my DNA, but I don't mind. I don't mind at all.
Yeah. Okay, so what was your home like growing up? You said you were born here, right?
Yeah, I was born here in the States.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. You're originally from where?
Oh, New York.
Oh, New York. Okay.
Born and bred, Queens, New York.
Oh, nice. All right. All right, so I know a little bit about your background and your story and whatnot. Trained by Homicide and then Mikey Whipwreck and but at first you heard about Killer Kowalski School, right? And then
Yep.
but the internet wasn't what it was and whatnot, so you didn't end up going there. But how did you hear about Killer Kowalski School from the start?
Well, that's because I heard some wrestlers like Triple H and Terry Saturn trained there, and I heard a couple of wrestlers back in the day mention that, I forgot exactly who, but those are the two that mainly stick out in my mind right now, that they came from that school, and I said to myself, okay, Boston's 3 hours away, and then I heard that Billy Kidman went to the Alpha School in Pennsylvania, and I didn't realize that he was in Pennsylvania. I just heard he was trained by the Wild Samoans, and he trained for 3 months. When I graduated college, I said, hell, I'll do 3 months of training, and I'll be a pro. And then I'll wrestle, I'll be good at it, and I'll get signed to ECW or WCW or WWF, and in 5-10 years, I'll be a millionaire. Well, 17 years later, in my opinion, I'm one of the greatest wrestlers on the planet today, and it's not me just being a mark for myself. I just am confident in what I bring and what I can do in the ring and on the microphone, and I just haven't had my opportunity to shine on a national level yet.
Right, absolutely. So, okay, so after Killer Kowalski School, and you that was too far away, and then you went to the Doghouse first, right?
Correct. I was in a newsstand, some kind of magazine shop, and they had PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and it said, "Bye to the Independents." And I said to myself, what the hell is the Independents? I didn't know indie wrestling existed. I only knew WWF, NWA, which became WCW. I knew about AWA back in the day, and I knew ECW. That's it. So I looked through the book, and I see all these little companies throughout the country. And I see this LIWF, Long Island Wrestling Federation, which is owned by Bobby Lombardi. And their school is in Queens, New York, in Ozone Park. And I said to myself, holy cow. I said, that's a half hour away from my house.
Yeah.
I said, all right. So I went to the address. I checked it out with a buddy of mine who was a wrestling fan at the time. And I said, come on, man, join. We could be a tag team. And he's like, all right. And then we got there, and he chickened out. And then I joined the school. Lathan, Tower of Torture, TOT is his wrestling name. He was there. He told me come back that night to meet Bobby. I came back. I met Bobby. And, Bobby was a sweetheart. And told me, hey, man, this is the deal. I think it was $100 a month, maybe $50 down payment. I forgot what it was exactly, money-wise, what the dues were. But a month later after that, they moved from their location on 101st Avenue, I think it was, to 940 Jamaica Avenue, which is the main doghouse, right, which everyone talks about now.
Right.
And started training in June of '99, and in July of '99, I had my first match.
Wow.
So not many can say after a month of training they had their first match.
Yeah,
Not saying that my match is the greatest, because I look back on it now and it was the drizzling shit. It was the red reel. but it's still impressive to say that, hey, after a month of training, the people who were in charge had enough confidence to give me the opportunity to have a match.
Right.
So,
yeah, definitely. Okay, so the Doghouse had to move at first, though, because it lost its lease, right?
No, it moved to get a bigger venue.
Oh, okay.
That's why I went to 940 Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
And then after being at 940 Jamaica for a few years, I think it was 2 or 3 years or whatever the case may be, they lost their lease, and the building owner wouldn't renew their lease, and that's why it closed down.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to NYWC, and Mikey Whitbread took me under his wing and polished me up.
Nice. Okay, so talk a little bit about NYWC, because you're still currently associated with them, right?
Oh, absolutely. I train there every week.
Yeah.
And NYWC is a very great professional wrestling school. It's owned by Shane O'Neill and John Kersey, Steve Forge, Joey Bernard. At the time, Mikey Whitbread was the head trainer. Now Mikey comes down because he doesn't live in New York anymore. He comes down and he helps run the locker room and run the shows on a monthly basis that they run. And they have a beautiful warehouse out in Long Island in Deer Park. And you go to, NYWCWrestling.com for all the details. And they had such people as Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, Mike Mondo, Trent Beretta come out of the school, Tony Nese, Alex Reynolds, John Silver, myself. And there's more up-and-coming guys that are very, very good in that school. There's a guy, Stockade, Big O's from that school. There's a kid named Jesse Vane who's really good. Anthony Lucero is very good. Angelo Andrews, he's really good. These are all up-and-coming guys that have a lot of heart. And one day we're going to have big impact. Joey Bergeau, he used to go by Joey Bergeau. Now his name is Apollyon. They're a very big man, who's wrestling. Mega came from NYWC, the 7-foot King Mega. So there's a lot of talent that came into NYWC. Stryker was there all the time before he got picked up by WWE. So, even Stryker was at the Smokehouse too. So him and I are very good friends. So,
yeah.
Not the name drop, just saying guys
No.
that
Yeah. One of the names you mentioned was a previous guest to this podcast. I had Stockade on.
Oh, yeah, he's a good brother.
Yeah, I believe is he still the current champion there?
No, he just lost the strap.
Oh, there
he wouldn't take my challenges. He was scared to wrestle if he stepped in the ring with me. But he ended up losing it to Richard Kaysen.
Oh, okay.
Richard Kaysen had his number. And right now I think he's on the quest of a rematch or something of that nature.
Yeah, okay, nice. All right, and before
I'll
early.
tell you one thing, though. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
If anybody is listening, NYWC has a streaming service, and I think it's $2.99 a month. It's called NYWC Archives, right?
Yeah.
They have all their matches that if you don't go to the live events, down the road they put all the matches. The match that Stockade lost his championship to Richard Kaysen was one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. It felt like a main event match. It had a big match feel, and they basically told a great story and tore the house down in a hardcore match. And it's very hard to tell a good telling story when you have all those weapons in the ring because people only want to see carnage and bloodshed and car wreck. But they told a great story. It was a great story leading up to it, where Kaysen had, beat him twice, pinned him twice in two different matches. I don't know if they were tag team matches or non-title matches or whatever the case may be, but he pinned the champ, and he was flipping out, and they had this big match, and Kaysen pulled the upset, and the crowd went ballistic, dude. It was like a Hulk Hogan pop, like an LOD pop.
Nice. And for you to say that, to give props to a hardcore match, because I know you said in the past, like, the hardcore kind of matches, that's not your cup of tea, if you will.
No, not at all. I mean, but look, I'll tell you why. One, the marquee, okay? People pay to see wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see a combat sport. They want to see a simulated fight. They want to be entertained, okay? And once you cross a certain threshold, then they expect to see that and more next time someone else goes in the ring. Back in the day, if you watch wrestling in the 80s, NWA Jim Crockett promotions, Rock and Roll Express, all they need to do was throw one punch and the crowd was ballistic. They finished with a double drop kick.
Yep.
And the crowd, they pop like crazy for a hit toss and a body slam. Now to get a reaction from the crowd, you have to do a triple Lindy and a 630, Hurricane off the top of the Empire State Building, do 30 tables onto a pool of sharks with laser beams on their head. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Man. Did you see the video? I think it was maybe last month with Zandig and Joey Janela.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, I can imagine you didn't like that very much.
Well, I didn't see the match. I didn't see the storyline. I'm not big on those tournament and death matches, but you know what? Wrestling is like ice cream. Everyone likes a certain flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I may like vanilla. Someone else may like chocolate. That match was very. I just didn't like it. Mm-hmm. Not because it wasn't any good. Just my flavor.
Yeah.
Some people don't like horror. Some people don't like horror movies. But you can't say that Night on The Living Dead or Jason or Freddy Krueger suck because they're great horror movies. But just not your forte. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. You mentioned the NWA. You yourself did some work with the NWA in the past too, haven't you?
Yeah. I've wrestled for the NWA heavyweight title, and I've wrestled for prior NWA companies. I even wrestled for the NWA North American title. So yeah, I've worked with the NWA before. Okay.
And besides NWA, I mean, you've wrestled every major company there is out there. You've even done some WWE work in the past. Was that just extra work, or was that like dark matches, or?
No, it was extra work, but we wrestled in the ring before the show.
Mm-hmm.
The agents want to see what you can do. So I've wrestled in every major arena in New York. So I wrestled in the Garden.
Nice.
I wrestled in not to sound like a big shot, but there was a ring up. There was no crowd there. It wasn't a dark match, but it was a wrestling match. You know, in front of the agents and in front of the rest of the boys on the roster. So did that in the Garden. Did that in Nassau Coliseum. I've done that at the police. So I could say I've wrestled in every major arena. You know, before a live event. You know, for the WWE. I've done a lot of extra work with them. Was security guard. Was a druid a few times.
Oh, wow.
So you know.
So how do those opportunities come about? Is it just kind of word of mouth, or like because you've been doing it like over time, or?
Well, unfortunately for me, you know, I got a lot of my shots during the Laurinaitis era. Every time I went up there, I got touted for my ability, but I was told that I wasn't tall enough. I'm only 5'10", with my boots on. I'm about 6 feet tall, you know? And they're like, yeah, we're looking for guys who, we were told to hire guys 6'2" and higher today. But don't give up. Don't give up one day. Cream rises to the top. That's the speech I always got.
Yeah.
And you know what? I totally believe that. And hopefully one day they come a-knocking. I mean, the Olympics are right around the corner, so you never know. They might need a Greek guy, you know, on their roster. The Democratic presidential election, which is invented by the Greeks, are on the corner as well. So you never know. But I digress. But yeah. So basically, you know, first it was word of mouth, and then you know you call the office. My first time I did it when Bucci was there in the office. He gave me a shot, and then you know it was just word of mouth and calling up and getting opportunity, and then. That was basically it. And, you know, you did your little profile on WWE thing that they had at the time. And if they were in town and you were lucky enough to get the call, or if you called at the right time and, you know, the stars aligned and you said, hey, man, do you have any availability? And they tell you yes. It's a crapshoot. You know, it happens when it happens.
Yeah. Now, that's interesting that you said, though, at the time, Laurinaitis said they're looking for like bigger guys, but if you look now, they're doing like the Cruiserweight Classic and stuff like that. So I don't know what your weight is right now, but would that be something you would be interested in, or?
Oh, absolutely. I'll cut weight if I have to get in that Cruiserweight Classic. That's not a problem with me. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
And they have no Greek wrestlers. They're representing all these countries, but they have nobody to represent Greece.
That's true.
You know? So, it is what it is. Hopefully, if they do it again, I get an opportunity, or I get a call. There aren't any Greek wrestlers on TV or anywhere else, so it is a demographic that they haven't really touched, and I can basically be the liaison and help them, you know, reach. You know,
yeah.
And it is a market. It is a market that there's a lot of demand for a combat sport, because I get people from Greece all the time hitting me up on social media telling me that they don't have anything over there but the WWE, and they wish they had the WWE network available in Greece, so I can be the spokesperson to try to bring that there. Because Greeks love Greeks, you said it yourself. You know, with the whole pride thing.
Definitely.
So you never know.
Yeah. The WWE network, is that something you feel has hurt or helped the business?
It helped the fans. From the boys' point of view, I don't know, because maybe the paychecks were larger when people paid more for pay-per-view.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I don't receive monthly royalty pay-per-view checks from the WWE, so I can't comment on that.
Right.
And say how the effect has been. But, I mean, put it this way. From a business point of view, it's pure genius because you pay the pay-per-view, half of it right off the bat goes to the pay-per-view provider. So if you have 1 million buys, and let's say $40 a pop, and you make $40 million, right, at a WrestleMania, $20 million is going to the pay-per-view providers. Then the other $20 million, you got to take off your expenses, everything that you spent for the arena, and the salaries of the boys, you know, whatever the case may be, and everything that was your expenses, and then you're left with your profit. But if you can eliminate 50% of an expense, one of your expenses, which is the cable provider, and increase your bottom line, you know, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
You know, from a business point of view. But then people are complaining that, hey, you used to make $3 million at WrestleMania, and let's say $1 million buys at $40 a pop, and now you're charging $10 a month, and you have, what is it? I don't know how many subscribers they have now, 1.5 or whatever it is.
Yeah, around there.
But put it this way, these pay-per-views between the big four that they have every quarter, they weren't doing $1 million buys.
No.
But now you still got a million people paying $10 a month for revenue. So I don't know if you have to sit down and do logistics and do the math and see if at the end of the year the revenue number is just spread out evenly, amongst the months, or if there is a dip or an increase depending on viewership and subscribers.
Yeah.
I don't have all the tips, so I can't comment.
Right. I mean, I agree with what you said, though. Like, from the fans' perspective, I think it's a lot better because from going and paying $50, $60 a month, and then now they're talking about doing like 2 pay-per-views a month for $10. I mean, you can't beat that.
No, you can't beat that, but the only problem is then it's overkill.
Yeah, that's true.
Let me give you an example, okay? Every great form of entertainment, TV shows, movies, they all have superstars in them, main event players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all have guys who are enhancement talent in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that in Star Wars you have the Stormtroopers, in Ninja Turtles you have the Foot Soldiers, in G.I. Joe you have the Cobra Army. So not every episode you're going to have, or every movie you're going to have, one superstar fight another superstar. And the problem is that nothing is as special as it used to be because of the Monday Night Wars, where they made the enhancement talent disappear, and every match has to be a pay-per-view caliber match.
Yeah.
So then what happens? If every match is a pay-per-view caliber match, then a pay-per-view match just seems like an ordinary match.
Mm.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So nothing special anymore.
Gets watered down, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why the pay-per-views back in the day, in the 80s and everything like that, seemed so much better because these matchups that were built up over a few months had so much built up and they had so much of an importance to them that it meant something,
Yeah.
Now you see some guy wrestle another guy for 6 months, and they do it on Raw, they do it on SmackDown, they do it on Superstars, then they do it on the pay-per-view, and everyone's booked, 500, no one's booked with a winning record.
Right.
Then what happens? Everyone loses their appeal.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just me. That's
No. I completely agree with you.
I know you're agreeing with me, but you know what? The ones who are making the money aren't doing this, and they're still making money, so they must know something, and I don't, because I'm not making as much as they are. So I'm not,
Right.
I'm entitled to my opinion, but I'm not one to sit there and bash them, because they're making millions and millions of dollars, and I'm sitting here not making millions and millions of dollars. So.
Touche. Yeah. But with the whole brand split thing, they have like I guess it's going to be 2 separate rosters and possibly bringing guys up, signing new guys, whatnot like that. So I mean, oversaturation. I mean, it could be that, but at the same time, you have like specific brands. Do you know what I mean?
Well, listen. You know what? This is what you have to do. Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Why do you think NXT is such a hot commodity right now?
Because it's its own separate thing from. They have their own specific roster. Away from.
Do you think that's the only reason?
Well, I think because of who's running it and who's not running it.
Okay. Well, that may be a factor to it, but I feel the reason why NXT is a great television product and a great brand and grew like wildfire is because it's different. It's pro wrestling. It's not sports entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have every show starting with a 20, 30-minute promo.
Yeah.
And you don't have people wrestling each other 50 times over the course of 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
You see stuff in all their main events and all their shows, they end in big matches. And all their big, NXT specials are big matches.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, put it this way, if they just built up, I don't know if I'm all caught up, I may be an episode or 2 behind, but they built up, what's his name? Finn Balor and Nakamura, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to wrestle, and they're not wrestling. They didn't build it up in the beginning of the show where they're wrestling at the end of the show. to pop a quarter rating or whatever the case may be. They built it up to where they're going to wrestle 3 weeks or 4 weeks down the road.
Yeah.
So now you have a build-up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the build-up becomes interesting because how they're going to build up to the match up front, and how they're going to do it, and how they're going to get people interested into it. And that's what the magic is. And that's why NXT is growing rapidly, because that's what people want. They're tired of sitting two guys who have a beef with each other 30 minutes in the ring telling each other how they're going to beat each other up. Because I don't know about you, but I know I'm not a tough guy by any means, but I've never backed down from a fight. But if I got a problem with somebody and that person's in my face, I'm not going to sit there for 30 minutes and give them a dialogue on what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hit him.
Right.
Or I'm going to hit. I'm going to expect him to hit me, and if he throws a strike, I'm going to counter it by either a block or a duck, and then put it on him. And that's real life, and that's what people want to see.
Right.
I mean, you have to have drama, because unfortunately, holds matches and just pro wrestling itself isn't a draw. You need to have a good split between entertainment and drama and actual physical combat sport in the ring.
Right.
So, in my opinion, the way WWE used to do it, when it was mostly 70-80% wrestling and 20-30% showmanship and promos and dialogue and promos, was a better split than the way they're doing it now, or they've done it in the last few years.
Yeah. You always have to have a story, like a background to why these guys are going at it, or why so-and-so hates so-and-so, you know what I mean?
Listen, wrestling is very simple. There's a good guy, there's a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's an issue, and they fight.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not that hard. It's been done. It's the wheel. You can't reinvent the wheel. You can't change it, because it's not going to work if you try to change it. If you do try to change it, it might be cool for a couple of weeks, but then they're going to want to see exactly what brought everybody to the dance to begin with, and that's simplicity. Yep. You got to keep everything simple. Make it sure that it registers with the crowd. Otherwise, it gets lost in translation, and then it becomes an issue when people get this stuff. Especially nowadays, with everyone's attention being so limited, they'll change the channel in a heartbeat because they have so many different options to watch.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? And that's another thing that baffles me. Every time they have a match, they have a commercial during the match. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Right in the middle, too, and then... But, like...
But anyway, I'm sorry. I go on a tyrant sometimes.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I have a lot of passion about professional wrestling.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You have to if you're gonna be a professional wrestler. I think everybody starts out as a fan.
No, absolutely. I say it all the time. You can't turn it on or off. It's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
All those people who turn it on or off shouldn't be in the ring. They should be behind the guardrail watching it, and leave it to people like myself and other individuals who've made it their lifestyle and continue to keep it their lifestyle. Because that's when you're going to get good quality wrestling. Whether on TV or at an independent show, you can tell who the wrestlers are and who the play wrestlers are. But anyway.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, so getting back into your career a little bit. Like I said, you've worked for every major company out there. I believe you did some TNA work.
Yep.
Oh, you want to talk about that experience?
Yeah, sure.
How'd that come about and stuff?
When they started out and they were still doing the weekly pay-per-views, I was in a tag team at the time called The Solution. And we went down there. We did a couple explosion matches. The first match we had, we wrestled the Harris Brothers. And the second match we had when I went down there was against CM Punk and Julio De Niro.
Nice.
And it was both good matches, great matches for what it was. I mean, I think we went 10 minutes with the Harris Brothers or 8 minutes. And I think we went 5 minutes with Punk and De Niro because it was a TV match and they just had to cut the time or whatever. But whatever. It was what it was. Unfortunately, nothing came out of it. We were wrestling for a company called Cyberspace, and at the time they were the first company to use TNA talent, and we had feuds with the Naturals, great feud with America's Most Wanted at the time, and everyone was liking our work, and we thought it may lead to something. Unfortunately, it didn't. We were getting complimented for our work with the TNA talent. Didn't go anywhere. Ended up doing one of those gut check seminars. Was in some kind of running with some kind of bracket that they decided to throw up online. When I did do the gut check, I was told I was brought to Orlando and being seen by the correct eyes. And nothing happened. No, still waiting for the phone call. But I came to find out they told that to me. They told that to Tony Nese. They told that to Sam Callahan. They told us at the Tommaso Ciampa too. None of us got a phone call. But whatever. You listen, man. The one thing about professional wrestling is this: I've never cried over spilled milk because I knew since day one when I entered this business owes me nothing. It owes nobody should expect anything from wrestling. This business doesn't owe us anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guarantees in this business. Absolutely anything. It's entertainment. It's a crapshoot. Some people get on board because they know people or their family members or their second generation and third generation wrestlers. Other people get on because of the way they look or they're just in the right place at the right time. It's a crapshoot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I never I just put my head down and I keep chugging along, and hopefully I get my opportunity sooner or later.
I was going to ask you, my next question was going to be, but you kind of already answered it. Like, after stuff like that doesn't work out or there's no, like, kind of follow-up to it, do you get depressed or, like, down in the dumps about something like that? But you already answered it, kind of.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not going to lie. I do. I get, everyone's going to get upset because you work hard, and when people, and look, man, if my mom was coming to the matches and she was the only one telling me I was great, then I can understand, maybe I'm not good at this.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get told from everybody, from the fans, to other pro wrestlers, to other promoters, to everyone I've worked for, that they all ask me, how come you're not on TV yet? What's going on? You should be there. Then not everybody could be wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, it does get a little frustrating. It does, and to say that it doesn't, will be a lie. And that's the hardest thing, is the mental anguish that you got to go through and suffer, saying, hey, man, what am I doing wrong? And not being able to find out, what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like I'm the only one. I know there's a few other people on the independents who probably have the same story I have, and it's just the nature of the beast. But some people will quit, and some people won't.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, man, there's a couple of sayings that I live by. One of the sayings is this: you take yourself on the table, you're never going to get a winning hand.
Mm-hmm.
You pull yourself out of the game, you're never going to get put into play. So it doesn't matter how long you sit on the sidelines for. Sooner or later, the coach is going to say, "Hey, get in the game."
Mm-hmm.
And once I get that opportunity, I know I'm going to hit a home run, or score a touchdown, or whatever other sports reference you want me to use, because I know what I can do, and what I can offer.
Right. Okay. There was another one I saw that you did some work with. Talk about the Extreme Rising experience.
Okay. Well, the Extreme Rising experience is good.
Yeah.
In one retrospect, and bad in another.
Uh-huh.
Good being that I earned my spot on the roster because I wrestled Sabu.
Right.
The first show, unfortunately, Sabu OD'd, and the second show that they decided to have, he came back. He was clean as a whistle, and he had something to prove. I went down to the show because I was told to bring my bag, and there's no guarantees. If something opens up, they might use me. I show up. The guy, Cody Michaels, who I was talking to, told me, "Did you bring your bag?" I said, "Of course I did." He says, "Okay, you're wrestling Sabu." I said, "Okay, cool." He goes, "Is that okay with you?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, Are you awestruck? I said, "What are you, out of your mind?" He laughed. I go, "Dude," I said, "you could tell me I'm wrestling Triple H right now. I'm not going to be starstruck. It's just another guy, another day in the office."
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but wasn't that like 5 minutes before you're supposed to go out, you found out who you were wrestling?
No. It was earlier in the night.
Oh, okay.
When I first got into the building.
Okay.
So then we went out there. We had a great match. Sabu loved it. I earned his respect. He earned my respect because everyone expected him just to be, OD'd again. But he went out there to try to prove a point. Went out there to earn a job, and I did. And then, had great matches. Wrestled Stevie Richards. Wrestled Perry Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestled Hijo de Rey Mysterio. Wrestled, I did stuff with Sandman, all this stuff. When they put me in, I was partnered up with Homicide and Luke Hawks, and we were going to start our own faction. I'll be like a young blood, like the new wave of era type of deal, and we're going to kick out the old guys and all this stuff. And I got a chance to actually meet, Kevin Kleinrock, who became a friend of mine. He's a very nice individual and great guy outside of the ring as well, outside of the business. And I met Shane Douglas, ended up wrestling him in Pittsburgh for another company, and we had, great matches, but he saw I can go, just it is what it is. It was just almost like networking, just to show the people, hey, man, I can hang. And it was a great time. But the bad thing was, one of the owners, his name's Steve O'Neill, screwed all the boys because he canceled the show right before WrestleMania weekend when they were here in New York. And you know what? Because of that, I was booking the shows, and I was a man of my word. I got the bookings earlier on in February before I started working with Evolve. They were working WrestleMania weekend. They asked me, am I doing the Extreme Rising shows? I said, unfortunately, I have to because I gave them the word. You know, I don't want to be that guy who just jumps ship like that. It's not right. It's bad business. Hope you can respect that.
Right.
I thought everything was cool. And then a week later, boom, show got canceled. A week before, I'm sorry, not a week later, a week before the shows, they got canceled. I hit up Gabe, said, hey, man, I know it's a little late. I know nothing's open, but if anything is, let me know, please. He goes, no, I'm sorry, everything's already booked. I said, okay, cool. Now I lost my spot at Evolve. So it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just pisses me off because, you know, all the other stories I heard about this guy and how he was doing business just wasn't the right way of doing business. So if you don't have money, don't open a company.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Are they still running shows?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I haven't heard anything.
Okay. So, is there any indies out there that you haven't worked with yet that you would like to, or any indies out there that you like are on your radar that you want to go back to?
Any talent I work with?
No. Company-wise.
Oh, company-wise? Yeah, I'd like to work with people, more companies on the West Coast. I mean, I work with ECWF, and I work with Dave Marquez with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And those were both great companies. I'd like to go back then when they're running shows again. But I would like to work for Gorilla. Never had an opportunity to work for PWG.
Yeah.
You know? I think I would do very well there. But I'm not, you know, anybody who's willing to give me a shot, I'm willing to work for. As long as the money's right and we can come to terms, you know, I'm willing to go because I know I can offer them something and they're going to offer me something in return. And that's our platform to showcase what I can do and financial compensation. So, you know, I'm not one of these guys who says, all right, I want to work for this company because I'm a fan of the company. At the end of the day, there's only two major companies that I really want to work for. One being New Japan Pro Wrestling, and the other one being the WWE, because that's where you're going to make the most money. And I would love to work for TNA and Ring of Honor as well because they're on TV.
Right.
Anywhere I can make money and make a lot of money doing it, you know, I would love to work for. Plain and simple. You know, so that's the end of the game. It's a wrestling business. It's not the wrestling fan fest, you know, where you want to be a fan and just, you know, wrestle for places that you hear have good crowds, you know?
Right. Okay, I don't know if you ever heard of Legendary Action Wrestling. That's out of New York.
What is it called?
Legendary Action Wrestling.
Legendary Action Wrestling.
Ran by
new company?
Frankie Flo.
Frankie Flo. Is Frankie Flo? Is he a Puerto Rican dude?
Yep.
Is he the one? Did he used to wrestle at ECPW for Gino Caruso?
Yeah, still does. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I met him once or twice. Big jacked up dude, right?
Well, yeah. If you want to talk off air, maybe we could set something up, get you over there.
Yeah, definitely. We could talk off there.
Okay. You mentioned you lost your spot in Evolve from WrestleMania weekend. Is that like permanent, or that was just for that weekend?
No, that's been permanent. I haven't been on Evolve since.
Oh man, that sucks. I was gonna say because that's almost like a stepping stone now to WWE.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, I mean, there's times I've reached out, and unfortunately I got the same answer. We have nothing for you. If we do, we'll give you a call, which is a polite way of basically saying, hit the bricks, kid, you know? Yeah. But, you know, like I said, I don't cry over spilled milk. If someone doesn't want to hire me, it's their loss at the end of the day, because I know that, and I'm not saying I'm the best thing since sliced bread, even though I do think that. I don't want to come up with
No, I mean,
you know, no.
I back you up 100%. Like, I've seen your work, and I could vouch for you 100%. Like, you are like the real deal. Like, it's not just me blowing your smoke up your ass or you trying to buff yourself up. Like, what you say is true.
Well, look, man. There's only one thing I have in this world. That's my word. You know, and I'm not going to break it for anybody because when you die, you have your name and your word, and that's what you're going to be remembered by. Okay, so. With case in point, you know, before I told you, there's a couple sayings that I like to live by. One of them is being a quote that Johnny Valentine once said, "People may not believe in wrestling, but I'll make sure they believe in me." And that quote right there defines who I am as a wrestling athlete, both in the ring and out of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you see me, when you see what I can do, you're going to be questioning, wait a minute, he really hit him? Did that really hurt?
Yeah.
She really patted him? Because that's the magic of pro wrestling.
Right.
And if you don't, I'm not doing my job. Maybe it's an off night. But I've had people come up to me and hate me, and they say, what you do in the ring, no one acts like that. That can't be acting. You really are that big of a piece of crap, and I don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see you later. What do you want me to tell you? I did my job.
Right.
You want me to become a nice guy? No, you're not my friend. You're a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Buy a ticket and see me get my butt kicked, which won't happen.
Nice. Okay, I want to ask you about one of the pictures you post up on Facebook with the AML belt. The AML belt.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge belt. I just wanted to ask. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about like what is that like carrying that thing around and like do you get like I don't know, not made fun of, but.
Well, it's not like I'm walking around to the gym and
Right.
with that thing around my waist.
But yeah, I was just reading someone.
I'm very protective about companies that let their champions leave with a championship belt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with that being said, right? With that being said, I only carried that belt with me when I went to an AML show. I didn't. Whenever I was booked everywhere else, the belt would sit in the back in my closet.
Mm-hmm.
Where on a shelf, protected. This way, nothing happens to it. No one steals it. Whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was wrestling for AML and I had to travel with the belt and I had to go through, TSA at the airport, people would see it. They're like, "What is this?" It's my championship belt. I'm a pro wrestler. Oh, wow. Can I take it out? No, man, you can't take it out. I don't want to hold it too long. I was like, I don't want to be a bad person, but it's going to take like 10 minutes to take it out, and you want to take pictures, and more people are going to come through. It's just a metal. It's a belt.
Yeah.
You see a championship belt.
Yeah.
So.
Talk about like the trust though, like a promoter has in you to put like a championship on you. What does that mean?
Well, listen, man. Even though what we do, quote unquote, is a work, it's a vote of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to WrestleCade this year, I wrestled there last year. When I went there this year, and they told me that I'm going to win the belt in my first match for AML. I couldn't believe it. I said, all right, cool. In one way, I said to myself, great. One way, I was like, oh, man. Because when you start at the top, after your run is over, there's only one way to go, and that's down.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I was in that retrospect, I said, But in the other retrospect, I said, it's pretty cool because, they're going to put me in the main event. They're going to have my long matches. I can do my shtick, and people will get their money's worth, and they'll be happy. So, it was what it was. AML is a great company. I dropped the title, unfortunately, to King Shane Williams, who was a great wrestler. And we had a great feud over it. And had a great time getting that championship and representing the company. I know a lot of people who never heard about AML came privy to AML because of me being their champion. Because, they're in North Carolina. Me being the guy who's traveled all over. And all these people on social media follow me. Whatever, they see the pictures. They all marked out for the belt because the belt's beautiful. One of the most beautiful belts in professional wrestling.
Yeah, it
and
is.
the company itself, which is run by Tracy Myers and Brian Hoffs, they're two great guys, and they have a great knowledge of professional wrestling, and they know what they're doing, and they're doing something right.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay. We talked a little bit about the Cruiserweight Classic earlier. You yourself have done a bunch of tournaments in the past. One in particular was ECWA Super 8. And the ECW Super 8, you've won back in 2012, and you competed in it this year, right?
Yeah, this year was an all-star, meaning that all past winners and past competitors that can make the date, or they will agree to do the tournament, were in the tournament.
And how did you do?
I made it to the semifinals. Unfortunately, I took my opponent. I underestimated his abilities, and I thought because of his first match that he'd be a little bit winded, but out of nowhere, last second of the match, he decided to pull a victory off on the facade. The better man won that match. Okay. So, but I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was my first day. It was my first time back in ECWA in a while, and the fans enjoyed it, and it was a fun time. It was a good match.
Cool.
Okay. So.
Okay. I have a couple of names written down here of some of the people you worked with in the past, and I'll just throw out some names out there if you want to just say a couple things about them real quick. Somebody was on this podcast before, Mike Orlando.
The elite athlete, Mike
Yep.
Orlando? Yeah, he's a good guy. Has a lot of potential.
Okay, Carlito.
Professional. Great wrestler. Had fun working him. Hope to do it again.
Okay, somebody who just came back to NXT recently, Rhino.
Oh, had fun working with him. Wrestled him a few times. Very, very good matches. Nice guy, and I hope he wins his election that he's running for.
Yeah.
Had a great match with him for ARW, American Revolution Wrestling, out in Pittsburgh or Ohio or wherever we were. To the point where Vader was watching the match, and Vader was popping huge for the match. He came back in the locker room. He's like, "That was a great match. One of the best matches I've seen in a long time. That could have been on any main event in any TV show or pay-per-view for any company. Good stuff, kid. Good stuff, kid." I was like, "Wow, thank you." You know,
Nice.
He didn't have to watch it. He didn't have to pay me. You didn't have to pay me a compliment, but he did. So it was fun.
Yeah,
Always
cool.
like working with Rhino.
Cool. Okay, you mentioned Shane Douglas before.
Yes, like working with him too. It was fun.
Yeah, Samoa Joe.
Oh, that was great. Unfortunately, not so many people were at the event, but Joe and I have known each other for a long time and never wrestled each other. We wrestled once. We had a great match. Hope to do it again in an NXT ring with him again.
Yeah, definitely. And another guy coming up in the Cruiserweight Classic, Drew Gulak.
Yes, Drew's a good buddy of mine. Guy's very talented, very old school. I like working with him. We've always had great matches together, and look forward. Every time I see my name on the marquee with him, I'm always very excited to get in the ring with him because it's always something new and something different, and it's awesome.
Absolutely. Okay, so with that being said, and some of the names you mentioned before earlier, I mean, if possible, can you kind of throw out like a top 3 or a top 5 favorite that you worked with?
Ooh, that was tough. Definitely Tony Nese is one of my favorite opponents. Hasriel, one of my favorite opponents. An individual who retired, his name is Josh Daniels. He's one of my favorite opponents. I don't know, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe. Not because they're big names, just we had good chemistry in the ring there. That was fun.
Right.
Homicide and Mikey Whipwreck was always fun wrestling. You know. I don't want to sit here and just.
No, that's fine. But when you wrestle like Homicide or like Mikey Whipwreck, do they kind of go at you a little harder because like they want to see if their teaching is working or anything like that?
Say again.
Like when you were wrestling like Homicide and like Mikey Whipwreck, do they kind of go at you a little harder to see like if what they're teaching you is working?
Yes and no. Only because they see what I do with everybody else, and they know what they've instilled in me and
Right.
showcased and has been passed, on. So they don't have to go any harder, or if they were, and I just kept up with them.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell because whatever they taught me, like a sponge, I absorbed. And then the reason why I really don't have like a favorite matches and stuff like that is because every time I step in the ring, whether it's wrestling wise or whether it's training, I try to learn something new. And if I don't learn anything new, when I step through those ropes, then I didn't do myself any justice.
Right.
When the day comes where I stop learning, that's the day I want to burn my boots and retire because it's over.
Yeah.
But you should always be learning. No matter how long you've been doing this, you should always be learning and making yourself better. Because the complacency is the worst thing to do. It's the worst thing to be because complacency leads to negativity and downfall in one person's ability to administer either professional wrestling or any other skills in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Now that's interesting that you said because almost every wrestler that I interviewed, they always say that you always have to constantly be learning. You should be learning. And is that something that's instilled in wrestlers early, or is that something they pick up over time, or?
Well, that I think it's more of an individual trait.
Because
personally, I'm
yeah.
my hardest critic. I'm my hardest critic, and I try to be a perfectionist. You know, people pay money to come see a show. I'm going to give them their money's worth. But at the same time, I'm not going to give them something they saw in 1983 because the business has evolved since then.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Now a lot of the business, you know, there's a lot of flippity-doodahs and stuff like that. Can I flip? Can I do this? Of course I can.
Mm-hmm.
Do I? No, because 9 out of 10 times I'm the heel, so why would I be doing fancy moves? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a hybrid, meaning that I can wrestle any style. I wrestle lucha, I wrestle that British world of sport scientific style, I wrestle traditional American style, I wrestle that Japanese fighting spirit strong style. You name it, I can do it. You put me in the ring with a broom, I'll make the broom look like $1 million. That's just
nice.
And again, it's not me being cocky. I just mean knowing what I can do, and I can only talk about myself because I only know myself 100%.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you know, the business is always changing. I'm always going to change with it, but I'm not going to lose the fundamental principles that made it work. I said it earlier. You need a good guy. You need a bad guy. The good guy, the people in the audience vicariously live through the baby face because they want to say and do things to the heel that they don't have the testicular fortitude to do. So they use that baby face as a vessel to live in the moment through the baby face. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, as a heel, you lie, you steal, you cheat, you take shortcuts, you're a bully, you're not a nice guy, and that's what a heel should be. He shouldn't be cool. He shouldn't be doing flippity-doo-dahs. He shouldn't be impressing for the fans. And if he does do a fancy move, he shouldn't really go and turn to the fans and get some applause. Because let's face it, if that's doing it, and the people are starting to pop for the heel, then who's the real babyface in the match?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, and it's a very simple concept, a good guy versus a bad guy, but like today's even, I don't want to keep throwing out WWE, but I mean, it's kind of like the cool thing now to cheer the heels, you know what I mean?
It's always been the cool thing to cheer the heels. It depends where you're going.
Yeah.
If you go to some little market or little town in Idaho, of course the babyface is going to be over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Southern Wrestling loved their babyfaces. They never cheered the villain.
Yeah.
But up here in New York, they love the villain. All the major cities, LA, Chicago, Florida, you know, they love the bad guys because, let's face it, that's the major markets. And the major markets, for some reason, they love the heels.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in Madison Square Garden loved Roddy Piper?
Yeah.
You know, how many people wear business suits when the horsemen were heels? They were breaking Dusty's bones or breaking his arm or whatever the case may be. And they come to the shows wearing suits because some people just root for the bad guys. It is what it is. You can't change it.
Yeah. Do you feel some of that is like the performers, though, like doing such a good job? Or do you feel like it's just the fans kind of going into business for themselves?
Well, back in the day, people would go to a show and say to themselves, wow, you see the way Dusty kicked Ric Flair's butt? Did you see how the LOD came in and destroyed Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard? Did you see how Barry Windham, fought this guy and that guy or whatever the case may be? Nowadays, they go to a show and they say, they'll say, oh, man, did you see that spot? Did you see that move?
Mm.
Did you see the athletic ability of that individual as opposed to... Because what's really getting over nowadays? Athletic ability and moves. Mm-hmm. People don't know how to get themselves over. Getting yourself over is a lost art. Mm-hmm. I tell this to kids all the time. You can do a match, and when you do a match, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And it's supposed to make an emotional connection with the people. Once you make the emotional connection with the people, you got them. Either they cheer for you or they boo for you. And the bottom line is, you can't be in between. There is no in between. It's either good or bad. And depending on the story that's being told, they're going to love you, they're going to hate you, and then once you're over, you can do whatever you want in that ring. Mm-hmm. And they're either going to cheer for you or they're going to hate you, but they're going to get lost in the moment, and you create a moment, and that's what they're going to remember. And they're going to go home remembering that moment. They're not going to remember the drop kick in match 3 or the headlock at the 3-minute mark in match 7 because they've seen it all before.
Yeah.
Everything's been done in wrestling. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter one bit what's done anymore. It's how the execution, how it's done, how it's presented, and how to emotionally attach the fans and give them that time of disbelief during the match so they can get lost in the moment and be one within that moment and be part of the show, but without hijacking the show. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
So it's a lost art. A lot of the kids today, I don't want to sound like that back in my day, but a lot of the kids, they don't know how to do it because they don't want to learn how to do it. They watch a match and they watch a match for what's being done. Like everyone's going crazy about the Ricochet Ospreay match.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I thought it was a good match. I just thought that they didn't sell enough.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, money's in the sell and the money's in the heat. That's it. The money's not in the flip. The money's not in this. The money's not in that. There's two things that make money: selling and heat. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that match, there was hardly any selling. They'll sell smack to the face like it's a gunshot, but when he gets kicked in the head, they don't sell that.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, I get kicked in the head, it hurts a lot harder than a slap.
Mm-hmm.
So to someone like myself who picks out the little particulars like that, you know what? It matters.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know what? Other people will remember that. They'll just remember the flips and all this.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's over.
Yeah.
Does the guy get over, or did his moves get over? So when I wrestle, I get over. And when I wrestle, I get my opponents over first. I don't care about my moveset. As a heel, you shouldn't really have a moveset. You should just take shortcuts because you're getting out-wrestled by the babyface the entire match anyway. So that's what a heel does.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you with the whole selling aspect because, and this is something that Jim Ross says all the time too, but they used to do the guy stands in the second turnbuckle, the guy's in the corner, he does the 10 punches to the head and has the crowd count along with them. And in reality, if you get punched in the face 10 times and the guy's not breaking his hand or your face isn't bleeding, like, what does that really mean? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, and I agree with the Jim Ross 100%.
Yeah.
You know, I don't punch in my matches. I never throw a punch in my match. I throw one punch in match. And I'm not saying this again to put myself over or concede it. I have one of the best punches you'll ever see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I use it as a false finish to the point where it got over in CZW as a false finish and people would pop for a punch.
Yeah.
How many people get a punch over at CZW crowd?
Yeah.
Not many. But I know I did because I was there and I saw it and I heard it. Okay? Fact is this. I have such a great punch that I use it as a false finish, and that's the only time you'll see me throw a punch. Plain and simple, or even a finish. I've used it a few times as a finish in the match because it was just the right time, right place, right thing to do, and it worked.
Yeah.
But case in point, other people will throw 30 punches in a match, and like you said, there's no bruising, there's no nothing. It kind of loses its appeal.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, punching is illegal in wrestling, and they shouldn't be throwing punches, and they should administer rules more often, because if there are no rules, then you have no heels to break the rules.
Yep.
Because they're not breaking rules if there aren't rules to exist. Punching shouldn't be there. Now, imagine if before every show they say, hey, or there's no punching allowed. Someone goes to throw a punch, you know what? You get caught punching, you get disqualified. Let's say a guy throws a couple punches in the match, referee disqualifies him, and then gets the punch over as a move that's not allowed to be used. Guess what? A heel does something at the end of the match, referee gets poked and gets hit by accident or whatever, or he goes and brings in the chair, the referee takes the chair out the ring, you know, and his back is turned, the referee's distracted by a manager or something of that effect, and he turns around and hits the guy with a haymaker punch, whether it's brass knucks or a regular good punch. The guy gets knocked out. 1, 2, 3. You know how much heat you're going to get from a punch because you just established something and the babyface, the heel, broke the rules?
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. But
Yeah.
people don't understand that. People don't understand that. And people can still get into the drama like that because you're still telling the same story. You're not killing yourself to do it. You're not doing 50 million flips off a ladder to do it. You're just telling a story and you're breaking the rules like a heel should.
Right.
Behind the referee's back.
Yep.
Not in front of the referee. Because then you need to bury your referee and the referee gets all the heat and the referee becomes the heel of the match.
I think it's all about presentation and execution. It comes down to.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So earlier in an interview, we talked about the PWI. Was that for yourself, making the PWI 500 a big deal when you made it the first time?
No, not really. Not because it wasn't a big deal. It was because I didn't know that all you had to do was put your name in and send them a bio of yourself and all that stuff. And then, you know, if your credentials hug the merit and weight, that you get on the 500 list.
Mm-hmm.
If that was the case, I would have been on the 500 years ago. I would have mailed in my stuff. Here you go.
Yeah.
But the first year that someone told me to do it, I said, said, that's all you have to do to be in the 500? They go, yeah. I'm like, oh, I guess everything is a work. So, there you go. But am I excited to be part of it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Only because, you know what? My name's in the magazine. It's going to live forever. You know, when I won the Super 8, they did a 2-page spread on me. I got the magazine somewhere in the house in a shoebox somewhere.
Nice.
So, you know, when I'm old and gray, I can show the grandkids, hey, look at Grandpa. You know, look at Papoose.
Nice.
In the magazine. Hopefully, you know, God willing, I catch a big break, and I'm in the magazines more often anyway, so it wouldn't really matter down the road. But if not, you know, at least I can say I had that.
I gotcha. Yeah, okay. I like to ask everybody that, just because some people say, you know, making it the first time is a big deal, and they'll frame the magazine or something like that, but along the same lines of, like, it's cool the first time, but then after that, it's like, yeah, if it doesn't really mean anything.
No, it means something. It means that you say, no, let me not say it doesn't mean anything. That's not true. It does mean something. It means that you're getting noticed.
Right.
You know, and, you know, it means that, you know, your name now has some kind of recognition, and it holds, you know, back in the day, the business lived through those magazines. Unfortunately, being the way technology is now and print is almost obsolete.
Right.
It's not what it used to be, you know, but, you know, it's still cool to get, you know, recognized for your hard work and your acknowledgement for some kind of, you know, for some kind of accolade that you have in the squared circle. It's pretty cool to see it in print because, let's face it, you know, it's not everybody who works a 9 to 5. All the people on the earth can say, hey, I was in a magazine, or hey, I was in a movie, or hey, I had people boo me out of the building, or hey, I followed my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not many people can say that, and being one of the select few to say that, it is pretty cool, and it is an honor.
Right.
But you know, I'm not one of these guys who pulls too much merit on the number or the listing that I'm on. You know, I don't even remember what number I was last year, to be honest with you. Not to sound cool, but I just don't. Because guess what? Whether I'm number 1, whether I'm number 500, whether I'm number 2 or 4 or 10 or 90 or 100 or a million, doesn't really matter to me because I'm not getting a paycheck from it.
Yeah.
You know? So, It is what it is.
Cool. Okay.
It's a perk.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned being in a movie yourself. You were in The Wrestler.
Yep.
What was that experience like?
It was pretty cool. It was 2 days of shooting in New Jersey. It was really cool. Met Mickey Rourke, nice guy. Didn't realize I was going to make the movie in as many scenes as I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I never made a big deal about it. I went to go see it in a theater with my wife. She's watching the movie. She sees how many scenes. She hits me in the elbow. She goes, why don't you tell me? Why would you say anything? And I told her because I'm not one of these guys who says, oh, I'm in a movie. Look at me.
Right.
And then my shoulders is the only thing that makes it in the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, there are a couple of scenes that I know that they personally filmed of me, you know, and other wrestlers got individual scenes filmed of them that didn't make the movie. It was on the cutting room floor.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever. I'm not, you know, like I said, it was cool. You know, you could say it's immortalized on film forever, which is also pretty cool to say, but again, it happened. Great movie. Should have won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he won the Golden Globe, I still think he should have won an Oscar.
Yep.
Met him. He was really cool. The way they filmed it was cool because they did it with Oscar during a real WXW show. So the crowd was actual extras and paid fans or fans, wrestling fans. Mm-hmm. And they were doing the tapings of the matches and they were having real matches. So they were ahead of schedule, and I wasn't supposed to wrestle, and they asked me to wrestle. And I wrestled Paul Enormous, you know, God rest his soul. That was the guy next to me with the big snake tattoo on his chest.
Oh, okay.
You know what? And and I was the babyface, surprisingly. He was the heel. And we went out there, and we had a good little match, and we tore it up. And then as we're walking to the back, you know, we say thank you to each other. We're about to go and, I guess, sit down, get a glass of water or something. And then Mickey Rourke comes up to the both of us. Come here, boys. So we say, what's up, Mickey? Hey, man, I got to tell you, that was a great match. You guys did very, very good. He goes, wow, great stuff. He goes, guys, keep up with these. That was awesome. Don't give this up. That was very entertaining. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Go out. Thank you very much. And then he walked away, you know?
Nice.
And I was like, hey, look at this. Mickey Rourke just put us over. I was like, that's going to go on the shoot tape. That's going to go on the book. That's going to go on the interviews if it ever comes up. And now I did. So there you go.
Nice. That's cool, man. All right, so talk a little bit about outside of wrestling. Would you consider yourself like an artist? Because like I seen your drawings and stuff, and I think they're pretty good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I consider myself an artist.
Okay. And where does that passion come from?
Well, growing up, I loved professional wrestling and I loved comic books and Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and sports and stuff like that. It's weird because you either be an artist or you're a jock. I was the best of both. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. I'm the best athlete in the world at the sports that I played. I was good. I found my niche in the professional wrestling ring. And as far as art goes, I always wanted to become a professional wrestler and a comic book artist. And I want to work for Marvel or DC. Unfortunately, my father, being, old school Greek, or, straight from Greece, he wouldn't let me go to art school. He would say either you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, my way or the highway. I'll throw you out of the house if you go to art school. So I didn't call his bluff. I never went to art school. So, it's no big deal. I mean, case in point is that even though I didn't go to art school, I can still become an artist for more if I get the opportunity. And I'm having my art actually published now because I'm going to be in the next Headlock comic book. I'm doing a pinup from.
Oh, nice.
For Michael Keaton's Headlock comic. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually pretty almost done with the drawing, to be honest with you. So it'll be my first printed piece of artwork, and I sell my artwork. People come up to me and they ask me, or they contact me on social media and they say, "Hey man, I want a drawing from you so I can hang up on my wall, or for my kid to hang up on his wall, or for a tattoo." So they pay the fee. I send them the drawing, and I sell my artwork.
Yeah.
Am I making millions of dollars? No, but at the same time, every penny counts.
Yeah. So how long does like a certain piece like you mentioned you're a big Star Wars fan, so if you're drawing something for Star Wars or even like making something for a comic book, like just like one picture, how long does something like that take you?
I don't know. It depends on the scenario. If I'm just doing the guy standing there, it could take me less than an hour.
Okay.
If I'm doing a whole big battle scene and there's multiple people in it, it could take me a couple of days. I also got to fit it in during real life. And,
Right.
So, it's not like I'm just sitting there at the table drawing and then going to the gym and then going to NYWC to train. I wish, but,
Okay, so, like you said before, and I just said again, big Star Wars fan, what did you think of the recent movie?
I loved it.
Did you?
There was one gripe I had with it, but that was it. And the one gripe was that the scene after Han, I don't know if anyone, screw it, spoiler alert, but Han died, and then they come back. Princess Leia didn't hug Chewbacca; she hugged Rey. And that was the only gripe because Chewbacca should have been. He walks right past her right before they hug. And the cool thing is this: I don't know how big of a Star Wars fanboy you are, like I am. But they asked J.J. Abrams about it, and instead of him trying to come up with some convoluted story, he just and messed up. That shouldn't have happened like that. You're right. I apologize. And he basically owned up. And he owned up to it. But other than that one scene, and obviously I didn't want Han Solo to die. He's my, he's one of my favorites, and it is what it is. But I think the movie was great. And then have your haters out there saying, "Oh no, it's just like Episode 4. It's a remake." Well, no, it's not. It really isn't. And this is where you can tell the men from the boys because Episode 1 followed the same pattern and the same guideline as Episode 4. They were in Tatooine, sand planet. They got Anakin, and they had two Jedi. They had two Jedis in Star Wars Episode 4. They had a princess. Instead of a Wookiee, they had Jar Jar Binks.
Yep.
They went on a quest. Same pattern. They fought the bad guy at the end. They got medals around their neck. Same exact thing as Episode 4 as Episode 1. And you know what? The big picture, if you sit down and watch everything, this is the gimmick. Time repeats itself. And the thing is, and this is where the intelligent individual picks up on it, the decisions made during time repeating itself and directions that they decide to go, that's going to shape their path. Anakin went towards the dark side. Luke went towards the light side. Let's see where Rey goes. And that's it. It's just time repeating itself. It's cyclical. So it happens to be during the Skywalker lineage, and it is what it is. Mm-hmm. We'll see what episode it is. I'm excited for Rogue One. I love the cartoons. I love the comic books that Marvel's publishing out right now. Everything's okay. I'm glad they revamped the canon. I'm reading a few of the books as much as I could possibly read. I'm liking what I'm reading. So,
yeah.
Big fanboy.
Have you ever been to conventions or Comic-Cons or anything like that?
You know what? No. And I'll tell you why. I've never been to a Comic-Con because the few times I was invited to go, hang out by certain people, I was working. I had shows to do. But also I've never went because I know if I step into a Comic-Con, I'll splurge and spend my life savings at a Comic-Con and collectibles and memorabilia.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is come home and say, hey, sorry, kid, you're not going to college. Like, look at this cool Star Wars that you bought.
Yeah. Okay. Last Star Wars question, because I don't want to make anybody mad with, it's supposed to be a wrestling podcast, but if you can...
Hey, man, if they get mad, tough.
If you can, rank the Star Wars villains for me.
Rank them?
Yeah. In your opinion. In your opinion. Okay, okay. Darth Vader, Darth Maul, the new ones slipped my mind.
Okay. All right, well, number one is Vader. That's it. He's number one. There's no one can touch him.
Okay.
He's the Babe Ruth of the whole Star Wars lineage and legacy. Number two, I would say, is Darth Maul. Actually, number two for me is Boba Fett.
Okay.
Then Darth Maul. Emperor was pretty cool. Let's see, who else is there?
Ren?
Yeah, Ren's up there. I liked him. A lot of people didn't. But I like the fact that he was different. He wasn't confident. He wasn't fully trained. He was more of an emo than he was as a he was a different take, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Grievous, he was okay. I like Savage Opress, which was Darth Maul's brother. He was pretty cool.
Yep.
I like the Mandalorians. I don't know if you want to consider them heels. But,
yeah.
They don't really like the Jedi too much. So, there you go. At the end of the day, it's all about Vader.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're winding down here, and I want to thank you for taking time out and being on for so long.
Okay, no problem, man. Thank you for the opportunity, dude.
And if you want, can you throw out your social media plugs or upcoming events, anything like that?
Sure. Social media plugs are very simple. I have Twitter, I have Facebook, I have a YouTube page, and it's all Greek God Papadon. So whatever, Facebook / Greek God Papadon, Twitter is @Greek God Papadon, my YouTube page is Greek God Papadon, and my Pro Wrestling Tees store, Pro Wrestling Tees / Greek God Papadon. You can't mess it up. Let's put it this way. Wrestling fans, they're not the brightest, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. So I try to keep it simple.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you, and I appreciate the time.
Not a problem. As far as upcoming events go, the 23rd, I'm going to be at ECWA in Delaware fighting for the ECWA Championship against Sean Carr. Come, because I'm going to kick his ass to make history, become 3-time ECWA Heavyweight Champion. On the 28th, I have the NYWC in Deer Park, New York. Not sure who I'm wrestling. Doesn't matter. I'm going to steal the show and give you guys your money's worth. On the 29th, I have BCW in Queens, New York at the Elks Lodge. I think I might be wrestling Michael Orlando. Not exactly 100% sure on that.
Nice.
So it'll be a good match. I don't think I have anything on the 30th. I have a plethora of dates in August and September. I know I get a chance to wrestle Brian Fury at Pro Wrestling Mass on the 24th of September. I'm looking forward to that because I've never wrestled Brian Fury before. Always wanted to. ICW is back in New York in October. I think it's the 15th. I may be doing couple of things. I may be doing JAP if they have a few events coming up. So just I don't know. Hit me up on social media. Follow me. You'll see, because I always post everything up there.
Right.
So everyone understands. Everyone knows where I'm at.
Okay, all right, simple enough, yeah.
Cool, man. Well, look, thank you for the opportunity, bro. If you ever want to do this again, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to.
All right, that was my conversation with the Greek god Papadon. Really good conversation there. Like I said, we went all over the place, a bunch of different topics, not just wrestling, which is something I enjoy, not always talking about wrestling with them, and real life and different interests they have outside of wrestling, stuff like that. It's always fun to see what other things they're into. But he's been a guy that's been doing it for a while, 17 years, and he's still waiting for that big break. He's been on the cusp, getting big, got close, and worked with a bunch of different companies, a bunch of different names, so I think it's still going to happen for him. I hope it does, because I'm a big fan of his, and I hope everything works out, and I want to see him on TV one day. So, without further ado, I will get out of here on my plugs. The podcast now has its own Twitter page at ECWF Podcast. And as always, the Facebook group page, Electric City Wrestling Fans. And the podcast also has its own YouTube channel now, Electric City Wrestling Fans. All the episodes will be posted on there. And most importantly, iTunes, Electric City Wrestling Fans. Like, rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend, pass the word along, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow on Twitter, join the Facebook group page, add your friends into that, all that good stuff. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.